I'm gonna put my TV. I'm gonna mute it, but I'm gonna put it on our stream so I can look up and see what people are
Yeah,
seeing.
watch TV. Yeah, or watch the YouTube. Yeah,
Yeah, and then I'll have my device on the chat.
very good. Getting techie now.
Oh, you know what? It's already up because you got it scheduled. Okay. Oh, there
Yeah,
we go.
right now we are streaming. It's called Christmas instead of there's another one that I thought I deleted that says Christmas something else, but this one just says Christmas on it.
Okay, I'm gonna copy so that people can see this. I'm gonna copy it to my Facebook page.
All right.
So, did you do anything out of the ordinary today? I think I know the answer to that.
No, rarely do anything else. Oh, I did a
Didn't go.
manual labor, but
Oh
that's not
yeah.
too out of the ordinary. You know,
What'd you do?
I'll rake leaves and do stuff like that.
Oh yeah. I hired a kid the other day to do some. I had the back of my yard was overgrown, and I paid a kid to do it. And well, the main reason was he had access to a truck and would haul off all the brush that he pulled out of there.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Didn't have to wait for the big garbage pickup.
well, I have access. I could have borrowed my dad's truck, and I could actually take it out to the farm. But his truck's a small truck, so it'll take multiple trips. And it wasn't. Oh, hang on. It wasn't a big deal, I don't think. But I mean, I didn't want to deal with it, so
No.
I paid the kid to do it. Oops. Okay. Let me. Oh, there's a couple people watching.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it seems like three people are watching. Now I don't know if that includes you and I.
Yeah, I think it does include you and me.
Well, I'm gonna pretend like it doesn't. We went. Today of course is Christmas. You may not know that because
I,
you're
do.
calendar free.
I am calendar free and loving it.
Well, in some ways I'm jealous, but we went to uh, we went to my sister. Of course, Michelle and I buy each other little things, and nothing major, just little. And then we went to my sister's and ate. And oh, Aaron Ward says yo. Hey yo, Aaron.
Hey, Aaron, what's up?
You know Aaron?
Nope.
Oh, well, thanks for joining us, Aaron. So, what are you working on, Ellis?
I'm hard at work on this strip right now. I just did some freelance. You probably haven't seen it. Let's see if I can bring up one that I've done recently. I did one of those in-world things.
Oh, you did. Are you back for them? You're back to
Yeah,
working
yeah.
for Inward?
Yeah, I did something where a guy was sawing a dragon horn off of a dead dragon. I assume it's
Oh,
a
that's
dead dragon. It said a guy was taking a dragon's horn off, and I naturally read into it. Well, if you're going to take a dragon's horn off, it's a dead dragon.
yeah. No,
Maybe
I think
that's not
that's
what they meant, though.
no. I think it's your assumption.
Yeah.
You can. It's funny though, because at my work, I work with salespeople and I work with artists. I'm, I'm and so sometimes salespeople will write stuff on orders that seems very obvious to them, and I read it and go, "What in the world did they mean?" And then sometimes the artist will, I'll get the art because I approve all the artwork that goes out of the department, and I'll get artwork back, and I'll just be like, "Holy cow!
What were you thinking? Yeah,
what were you?"
yeah. No. Communication. That's the only thing that ever goes
Yeah,
sideways.
well, and I'm really big on, especially when I'm not there, because the artists that work under me are fairly new, and so there's stuff that I know just from doing that job for so long,
Mm-hmm.
and And so when I'm not there, like for example, I won't be Monday and Tuesday next week. I do worry that something that I mean I come back and and there've been times I go on vacation where I come back and I immediately go, oh, this is going to be a problem.
Yeah,
Something is
yeah.
on try. Uh, I was off for jury duty recently. I was gone for 4 days, and it happened the week that one of the other artists was on vacation, and it went fairly smooth. I was impressed. Now there's always work drama though, but yeah, communication in a the ability to write up something in a way that the artist understands it is kind of there's a skill to it.
Oh yeah.
I
There's
always tell salespeople, read it and say, if I had to draw this, could I figure out what it is from the information I've given? I tell them if the answer is no, you kind of failed. You know.
well, yeah. And I would like to be that guy that says in most cases that my my absorption of some sort of instruction was better than most due to my amazingness. But no, I'm the same way.
Well, it's
And you find yourself not only that, but you make up your own little rules for how
right.
what the instructions meant, and it's like all of a sudden I've got rules that I feel like everybody's on board with about how to do it, and 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 then you come along and it really hurts the old what do you call it? The
You got
two minds of your cognitive dissonance really goes into overdrive when people start saying, "No, this is the way it is," and you go,
yeah,
What? Come on, it's obvious.
yeah.
This is the way it
Obviously,
needs to be."
you wrote this well, and I'm a big well. This is Let's put it this way. This is why probably I probably spend 3 hours a day on the phone
Yeah,
at work. I mean, I spend a lot of my time on the phone, and part of that is because I have a couple of artists that work under me, and I have enough knowledge that I can. And I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I know enough about the job that I can communicate with the salespeople and get the information that I need out of them, and then pass that along to my artist faster than if I gave it to the artist and let them decipher it. You
yeah,
know,
exactly. Yeah,
so
yeah,
just
yeah.
that's
Rather,
experience.
and some people wouldn't want to be doing that. For instance, I mean, there's a lot of differences between the typical artistic temperament and your sales temperament. As a matter of fact, there's probably more likely to be opposites in the room when you start talking that kind of role than just about any other kind of
Sure.
job descriptions. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So being the guy
Well,
that says, "Yeah, let me do that," that's makes you
yeah,
automatically a little bit valuable.
yeah. I think so, and I think my bosses think so. And honestly, I think my value is probably greater than if I were just sitting there drawing, 8 or 9 hours a day. Just because theoretically, the art, I got ink on my finger. The art is only going to be since I'm seeing all the art that leaves, it's only going to be as good as I allow it to be. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, in other words, if I don't know what they want, then there's not a prayer. Well, I say that. That's not really true. Sometimes the guys will. Then it has to be two guys. Sometimes they'll. I'll read it with an eye towards looking toward for problems, and I kind of trust that they will. If they have a problem, that they'll ask either myself or the salespeople. And they're pretty good at it. I got a couple pretty sharp guys working for me now. Occasionally they'll do. They'll. The two artists. It's funny. They're completely different personalities. Um, you know. And it
When
just
when
frankly,
you do the artwork, how often do you do iterations of it? How often do you how
no.
do you have a policy that, well, we if we take a little time with this, it'll get better and improve?
Um, you mean what are
Well,
you
in
asking?
video game stuff, you it's as a guy that is basically was born just to be as a down and dirty sketch artist is more than anything else. I'm done with something the moment I start on it practically.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
the In video games, especially if you're working as a modeler, you are expected to almost never be done with it and to be happy like that. And that really wasn't my personality. But and that's true for almost all your video game art. Even your concept artists are constantly like saying, let's revisit this," even though
Well,
they're also designed to chunk it out a little more. But
well, okay. So for people who don't know, or I work for a company that makes awards, like trophies, basically. And to give you an idea, one of the trophies that we make is the Heisman Trophy. So it's a pretty high profile. We work on a lot of big time stuff, and everything. In fact, it's funny. I was talking to my mom the other day, and she goes, "It seems like your job that when you had to deal with something that had a presentation date, it would be very stressful." And I go, "Mom, everything I did, because we're working on awards that are given away at
yeah,
events or and so we can't really work on something. You have to uh, finish.
yeah,
There's a definite deadline. You can't just work on it forever. But now we do some stuff that really doesn't have a super firm deadline. But and salespeople will tell me, like, they'll go, well, this doesn't really have a deadline, and I always tell them, man, everything, because eventually the customers are going to get annoyed and want the product,
yeah, sure,
even if they don't need it. And plus, I don't want to work on if we work on it more than one of the problems is, and I think this applies to a lot of art kind of stuff where you're satisfying a client. If you can't make them happy the first time and you give them a bunch of choices, they end up being less happy as you go along. You know,
yeah,
it
yeah.
seems like somebody.
There is a yeah. There's definitely a science to how much you present to a client. Yeah.
Oh, well, and that's what I deal with salespeople a lot, and they'll tell me, well, we want to see this, this, and this, and then they'll want it the same day or whatever. I'll tell them, well, first off, we don't have time to do that much. Second off, let's do this, and that's where my job or my value is in a lot of ways is working with the artists and the salespeople and coming up with solutions that will make the client happy.
Hmm.
And always occasionally I'll talk to an end customer on the phone because there'll be something that there's just chaos with it for whatever reason, and I'll kind of talk them through the design. And in the end, I tell them, I've done this for over 30 years, you know, and I've designed thousands. And the department I work in makes medals, like medallions,
Hmm.
and we do coins and we do police badges. And I've told them, look, I if we do this, I think you'll be very happy with this product when it's done, you know. And people respond to that, especially when you throw in the look. I've done this for 30 years because a lot of clients that we deal with have never they're not art minded people. They've never dealt with something like this. They just need medals for their event or whatever,
Yeah.
you know, or police badges or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I can see
What?
where this probably comes up in meetings. We're saying where they've never done it before, and all of a sudden someone comes up with a new idea. Why don't we give out medals?
Yeah, we need medals. Let's have a marathon or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he says, well, we're some medallions for it to give away, and the worst that I have to deal with lately is companies that will do, and there's a particular type of company that seems to be very prevalent in right now. They'll do coins and so, like challenge coins, and they'll hold a contest. And so somebody that doesn't know anything about, and there are parameters to some of that stuff. You can't, when you're making something out of metal, you can't just throw anything at it. And so they'll say, well, we got this contest, and they'll send us this winner of this contest, and then we got to make the product look like that. And sometimes you're like, we can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's where salespeople. I've got an order on my desk for this particular customer, and they've done a lot of business with us, but every one of them has been like they always have a contest, and they're all they may be decent looking ideas, but they're all not very manufacturable. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I have to deal with that. And they're like, well, we want this like this, and I'm like, we can't make it like that. And there's
Yeah.
one on my desk where they
Something
want
with a
the
whole
very
lot of undercuts or something like that. Or
in this case they want to hold a lot of paint.
mhm.
Every color of paint has to have like rails around it, like a swimming pool. That's
Mhm.
the example I use. And they want a bunch of little pieces, and I'm like, they can't make that. And so they're like, well, how big would we have to do this is what I always get. How big would we have to make the coin to make that work? I want to tell them like, well, 3 inches it would probably work, but I can't, I gotta be a little more diplomatic than that, you know. Um, and so that's sitting on my desk right now. Is this where we've gone around and around, and we don't manufacture those in house. They're done overseas. Well, there's
Yeah.
a vendor in America that does them, but most of them go overseas. And I've told them. I mean, we sent their design to the vendor to confirm that it couldn't be made the way they want it. And they're like, nope, we can't do that. And so now they're like, well, what do we need to change? And that's where I run into a lot of problems. You know. Anyway, that's my day job that I'm not going back until January 2nd. I like my job, but man, sometimes it's like any
Well,
other
it seems
job. I
like
mean,
holidays would be kind of hard for you guys to take a break.
oh yeah, we've been really busy. But we're kind of caught up. I tell you what's, I don't know if you know about the Chinese New Year, but it's coming up, right?
Right.
It's like end of January, I think. But with our manufacturers that are in China, the Chinese New Year isn't like the American New Year. The American New Year, it's like one day, and then they close for one day, and then they they're here. I'm sorry, I got distracted by the chat.
Oh,
Here we
okay.
you go out one night, and the next day you kind of watch football, and then you go back to work. Well, in China, everybody goes back to their hometown, and a lot of people don't live in the big cities, so apparently like public transit is just hammered, and the uh, the New Year holiday, actually, I think it's like a week or two off. And so, like, our factory in China is telling us that they're going to be basically, for all intents and purposes, shut down for like 6 weeks. You know,
Hmm.
so
Well,
I've had
that's
to.
interesting. Chinese New Year's, they make a big point of giving people time off, huh? That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
I wouldn't have
yeah,
thought that.
yeah. Oh, it's a huge deal. And I'm friends with CB Sobolski, and he lived in China for a while. And when he was there, he posted video on his YouTube page about how crowded. Like, I mean, public transit, you can't get anywhere on public transit. All the trains and planes and stuff are just packed with people going home. It's a big deal, you know.
There we go.
Um, so I don't want to say the name of the company because they're not a sponsor, but the stuff I ordered for you, the painting material that I ordered for you, is supposed to be coming in on Friday,
Oh
and so
yeah,
I may
yeah,
swing it by. Do what?
yeah, yeah, yeah. The I ordered some Liquifin. Um,
Yeah.
which when the moment it arrives, I'm going to dedicate, come hell or high water, at least one day a week to getting oil paints out and doing a little painting.
Oh yeah.
And that's, that's about like what my discipline used to be. As a painter, I would have a couple of paint classes paid for that I showed up. I would commute from Simi Valley to Thousand Oaks, California, and got around to some guys that really made their mark in fine arts that are really well known. There's one guy that's got a
Oh yeah.
painting out at the Cowboy Hall of Fame, whatever the new name is. What do they call that?
Uh,
Oh,
the Museum of let's see.
Cowboy Hall of Fame is
Museum
so
of
much easier. Yeah.
it's for our listeners in Oklahoma City. It's like the big National Western Heritage Museum or
But
something
when
like
I was
that. But
growing
it's
up
a
as a kid, it was the Cowboy Hall of Fame, and that's what I thought it would stay
yeah.
for as long as I live.
Are
But
you
no,
you're talking about Jeff Watts, right?
actually, no, I don't know if Jeff's got any cool
Oh yeah,
Western art done or not.
he
But
does.
there's another guy. Oh, now his name won't come to me. But he's got two of them out there. Pretty nice paintings. He always uses his wife as a model, which
Oh
is
yeah.
always interesting to me that people get hung up on, using their wife for their model.
Um, I would use my wife as a model if I thought she would stand for it. the Anyway, for our listeners, the Cowboy Hall of Fame or National Western Heritage Museum, it's a museum in Oklahoma City that is dedicated to the um, I would call it the preservation of, what would you call it, like Western culture, Western art,
Yeah, it's
and
it's a it's a very nice museum. They have a variety of things that relate to cowboys and Indians and just that era gone by, especially as it relates to Oklahoma. It's got well, not especially as it relates to Oklahoma because that would limit it. It's everything.
yeah, they have a large collection of art, and it's really, if you want to see, I would I would say if you want to see like figurative art, realistic figurative art, it's probably one of the best places, or one of the places where you can see the most examples of it, because almost all that Western art is figurative and is representational, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, Scott and I go out there, and there is nothing better for a guy that's having a hard time drawing horses than to stand there and draw a few Frederick Remingtons based on his sculptures, and that'll
Yeah.
really kind of start making an impact on you, sitting there sketching from life, basically.
Yeah, if you ever find yourself in Oklahoma City, I recommend checking it out. If you're an art museum kind of person, it has art, but it also has a lot of preserved, I guess you call it, culture of the Western era in terms of like artifacts, like guns
Oh yeah,
and
the weapons are just
out.
great.
And there's a lot of dioramas that depict stuff from that era. There's a Western town in one of the rooms. Um, there's a it's got some sculpture. Oh, it's got a room that is dedicated to the Western, as a the Western movies, I guess, or cowboy movies, or whatever you call it. And it's got stuff with John Wayne and that sort of thing. So it kind of covers the gamut of cowboy stuff. Now, a lot of my friends that are not into cowboy kind of stuff, um, they kind of give it the cold shoulder. But I feel it's like an art museum. It's worth visiting if you're
Oh yeah,
interested
yeah.
in figurative art. I have a Ellis said him and I go there a lot. I have a membership to it, so I can go
I'd say we've been
at
there at least four times, wouldn't you say?
Oh, you and I, yeah, and I've been a couple.
You've been more than that.
Oh, every year I probably go. I don't know if I go every month, and it's kind of pricey to get in if you're not a member. But I go. Oh,
Yeah,
I
I've
was
never
not too
paid a
long.
cent because of your membership deal. Yeah.
Oh, you never paid. Well, the first time we went, it was like the price of a membership was about what the two of it what it would have cost for the two of us to get in. And I said,
Yeah.
"Well, can I buy a membership?" Because it was like another $20, I think. And I was like, "Let me
Are
buy a
you
membership."
grandfathered in? Is that always
Well, I
going to
got
be your
another.
price?
No, no. Well, okay. So today's Christmas, obviously, and what's happened is my mother buys me a membership, which works out for me because I want one, and that way I don't have to pay for it. Also, it's kind of nice because that way my parents don't have to worry about what to get me, for Christmas, and they get me something they know I'll use.
No, that's very
You know,
useful. Yeah.
yeah, I enjoy going there. I can go there, and it's pretty. It's not real close to my house, but it's not too far out of my I would call my zone of operation, and
Yeah.
so it's nothing. I'll go by there and just spend an hour, or go by like they just redid that western town, and I wanted to go by and check it out, you know.
Yeah, it
But
is pretty cool. Speaking of weaponry and stuff like that, I've mentioned this movie to you anyway, called
oh yeah, I watched
the
part
what's
of it.
that?
I watched part of it.
What, the Sisters Brothers?
Oh no, no, no! I think I'm talking about Against the Planet or Planets Against Us.
Oh, okay. Oh, you saw my
I
tweet or you saw
I
my
saw
YouTube. Okay.
your YouTube and I watched that clip and I was like, what in the world?
Yeah, made it
And
pretty intriguing looking, didn't it?
yeah, probably more so than the actual movie.
It's yeah, exactly. It's before there was Terminator, there was this 1960s, I guess, Italian sci-fi where this guy comes along and he decides I got to get rid of my skin. Everything's breaking down on me, and so he reaches down and those kids in the car. That is
Oh
just
yeah,
that's completely an incidental happening that these kids were in the back seat when this alien basically carjacks the car and
oh really?
and the way they treat it, it's like you can tell that the movie is aimed at kids anyway. That would have
Right.
delighted a kid to say, "Look at that! That's where I'd be if I was carjacked by a dangerous alien. I'd just be watching and enjoying myself."
Yeah,
But
as it
yeah, yeah,
falls off its body in stop motion and in very uh, bad stop motion.
yeah, very bad, very bad. They get it over with as quick as they can, or more likely, the animator just had barely any sense of timing whatsoever, and was probably
Yeah, that's
very new to stop motion, and so he
but it's
didn't
important.
let it breathe basically, and all of a sudden he starts tearing his skin off, and it's over with the moment he starts.
Yeah, very
So that's
obvious
that.
when
Yeah,
it's
on
like
this channel, look for that. Anybody that's runs onto this
yeah.
conversation, look for the planets against us.
The so I saw your thing and I was like, well, that's kind of crazy, and I realized it was on Prime, and so I looked for it and I found it, and I watched part of it. I watched it until this started. I was watching it when you sent me the email, but I didn't see anything near that exciting in the part I saw.
No, and that's the reason I was scanning around on it, not giving it much of a chance. But I noticed it was done in little discrete little bits that would have your interest going up and down. And every now and then it would get just weird enough to justify its existence, to where it
Oh
was
yeah,
like, you know what? If I'd seen this as a kid, I would probably remember every minute of it because it was done at least that well.
yeah.
Uh,
I'm gonna watch the rest of it. for sure.
Oh, I haven't seen the
I
rest. Like I say, I ruined it for myself by jumping all over in it. But I just discovered that I have seen it all by now because I've jumped around in it enough and confirmed for myself that that's kind of interesting. That's kind of interesting.
yeah,
The thing I was going to bring up is that the Sisters Brothers, which
yeah.
stars John C. Riley, and well, it's got quite a cast. It's got Joaquin Phoenix, and it's got the guy that was in Nightcrawler. What's his name? That was also in
Is it something or
the.
another?
It was in Donnie Darko. What's his name?
Uh,
Big
it's not
eyes.
Jake something.
Yeah,
I know who.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, that's the name. That's the name. Somebody in chat is probably going to be yelling at us.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal. Are the people of Oklahoma just more sensible that way?
I'm reading that right now. Um, no, well, okay. Here's the thing: they are very sensitive to the native. First off, there's a lot of Native Americans in Oklahoma. Good friend of ours is Native American, and he works for one of the tribes. And so it's not treated in a sensational way, and it's certainly not. I don't believe disrespectful to the Native American culture. In fact, they showcase among the Western stuff Native American or Indian, as you will, um, their what would you call it? Like their artifacts or not
Yeah, yeah,
artifacts, but
sure.
like
Their culture.
modern, yeah, their culture, I guess, their artistic culture,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
they have
They've got
yeah they got quite.
lots of stuff. I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab a cup of coffee. Go ahead, and tell everybody about it.
I don't know that the people now. Okay, I'm gonna tell a story about myself. My wife and I go to New York quite a bit, but a couple times a year usually. And one of our favorite things to visit up there is the Museum of Natural History. Now, the last time we were up there, not the last time, a year ago we were up there, um, it happened to be during Columbus Day. And there was a big protest at the Museum of Natural History because of Columbus Day. And they have demanded that some of the displays have been taken down. And
I'm back.
it
I have my
it
headphones on.
oh, okay. I'm talking about the Museum of Natural History in New York City. How groups have protested, and as far as I know, now it's a little bit different up there in terms of the museum. But as far as I know, the museum here in Oklahoma has not received any criticism. Now, to be fair, a lot of those protest groups tend to operate in areas where they can receive funding, and I don't know that there may not be that opportunity in Oklahoma. I don't doubt that if the wrong people came in or the right people, depending on your persuasion, there would be protest.
Well,
They find something.
I've always been surprised at who does find it. Uh, who can pull off a protest here in Oklahoma? We've got Satanists that apparently protest at the Capitol all the time. I thought, wait a second, is this the Oklahoma I know? So the Satanists shouldn't be able to survive in this environment, but I guess things have
Well,
changed.
well, let me say two things about that. One, I think that there are people in this state um, who will push back against what they perceive as traditional or
Yeah,
normal or however you think about that.
yeah,
And
they're
so there are people that will make that claim for themselves, not necessarily because they are Satanists, but
they're
more
just
because
being
they're pushing back.
contrarians. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
contrarians.
yeah, yeah. I think it's a fair way to describe them.
Yeah,
Um, and that's not unique to Oklahoma or any other.
no, no.
They're like, especially nowadays. Um, but yeah, I mean, a lot of the Satanist stuff like you're talking about. I think
But
some of that
and
came from out.
they're after the any sort of Ten Commandments kind of thing, which that
Right.
that always bugs me because there's nothing that our laws are more based on than the than
Yeah.
that starting
Well,
point.
yeah. I mean, I think that's a fair argument. So so not wanting to get too far in the weeds on this deal.
Yeah, sorry.
No, no, no. I mean, I think we can talk about whatever. Um, but so a few years ago, there was a Ten Commandments monument on the grounds of the state capitol, which of course was controversial among local people and outside groups.
And we've had
And
the same guy drive over it twice, haven't we?
it got drove into and and destroyed. The man was arrested,
Then I think
and
he did it again.
well, now hang on, you're jumping ahead a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
And so me, a person who believes in the Ten Commandments, I said, and I told my wife at the time, I said, this is probably because you don't want to you don't want to be the guy that says, you know what, we should take that down.
Yeah.
It's probably something that there are people. It's a legitimate thing to think. Well, maybe it's not appropriate. For whatever reason. And so it got hit and destroyed. It got hit in his car, destroyed it. And I mean, I'm not kidding, man. They raised the money to replace it in a week, I think, or maybe even quicker than that. And I thought that was a mistake. I thought what they should have done is they said, we believe in the Ten Commandments and we believe that our laws are based on them, but we also see that this is a divisive thing among the citizens. And so we're going to take this as an opportunity to consider what we're going to do next, But man, they jumped on that and they rebuilt that thing very quick. And so, like Ellis said, the guy didn't run over ours. So apparently, the guy that got arrested got probation. So he got a slap on the wrist, basically.
Yeah.
I think it was.
What? You still there? You must, Scott, quit broadcasting. There he
Ellis,
is.
okay.
Is your battery running out?
I got it. Well, it is, but I got a phone call, and I thought I put my phone on Do Not Disturb.
Oh yeah, this has happened before. You've got phone calls, and all of a sudden you black out.
Every Wednesday, and I tell him, "Don't call me on Wednesday," and he calls me. Okay. Sorry, I'm doing the battery thing. I'm gonna buy a new.
Oh, careful! Don't break anything on this dumb show. It's not worth that.
Oh, hang on just a second. Got a precarious situation. Hang on just a second. Sorry about this. I don't know what you're looking at.
Oh, no. I was going to add another little topic. That Sisters Brothers movie. What I wanted to bring up is that they made the decision to go apparently period accurate on their handguns, to where I guess, and I'm sure the Cowboy Hall of Fame reinforces this, that there was this type of gun, because it seems vaguely familiar to me. But basically, you loaded your cylinders up beforehand and then slapped your cylinders in before there were cartridges. And that, that's more convenient than cartridges. But think about it from a movie standpoint, that you are messing with showing the accuracy of saying, I got to bring this big cartridge out and stick that in instead of adding bullets. But, maybe there's some gun fanciers out there that really enjoyed that part of the film just for itself. I got to say, that writer, I can't think of him off the top of my head, but I just read another book by him called Under Major Domo Minor, which, considering you probably have seen Fearless Vampire Killers by now, right, Scott?
What's funny is I have it from the library downstairs. And I was thinking about watching it tonight.
Uh-huh. Well, it's got a lot of castle settings in it, and Under Major Domo Minor has got mainly is done in a castle setting, and it's it's fun little thing. But at the same time, I don't feel like it ever really gave you the setting of time. It didn't refer to any historical events or anything like that, so that it became the theater of your own mind about when is this? Is this the Dark Ages or what? No, well, they got trains. So, I mean, you put it in that age, steam, at least.
Yeah. Hang on just a second, Ellis. I need to run and wash my hands. I'll be right back. I want to grab something to show you.
Okay, that's fine. Back. Scott has forced me to be the entertainer. Right now, I'm working on a little strip, and I see it's not showing up at all unless I bring it up this size. Yeah, there we go. You can see which is the size. See, I'm working up over stuff I've turned blue so that it's actually blue lined. I'll turn it off.
So we do another podcast, Ellis and I, or we do a podcast called Classic Cinema Podcast. And Ellis, I was at a thrift store recently. I went to my cousin's the other day, and I had to go she doesn't drive, so I went to the pharmacy to get a prescription for her. And on the way, I passed a thrift store, and I went in just to look at their books, and I'll just show you what I picked up.
Let me see.
Can you read that? Can you see it? Hang on.
Science, Iger sanction. The Iger sanction.
Yeah, I found the book for the Iger sanction, which
Very
I
cool.
believe is what you're picking. It's your next movie, isn't it?
No, that's the Ipcris file.
Oh God!
But there is a book of the Ipcris file by a guy that cranked out quite a few Harry Palmer stories, but he never names him.
So Ipcris file is a Harry Palmer film?
Yeah. Which is the $1 billion brain and Funeral in Berlin and the Ipcris file. And then they made some sort of TV version of it that apparently nobody even refers to. It's so bad.
Oh, really?
But it had Kane in it, so it had to be that good. And that's what we're going to be treated to the next time we see my movie is a little very, very much vintage Michael Caine, because it's the one that really put him kind of on the map in a big way. I think it even predates Marty or whatever that was called. Well, anyway.
Now, was he in Job? He was in the Italian Job, wasn't he?
Yeah, but this would predate Italian Job, I'm pretty sure. Oh. Yeah, he was in. I'm not sure. I'm calling him being put on the map in a big way. No, you're right. He's in movies, but he's not the star.
Yeah,
he's in like Zulu and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Where he's not the star, but he is very much a presence in them. This one was the movie that said Michael Caine is the star.
Yeah, Michael Caine is in. I watched Zulu a while back, and I was like, "Is that Michael Caine?" I don't know. He doesn't have star billing at all in it.
No. He's one of the players. He's a spear carrier.
Yeah, no pun intended.
Yeah, really.
But anyway, well, bummer. I completely misremembered what you told me on that deal.
It just shows you. And see, Scott is one of the people. He's out there. He's one of the people in charge, and yet he gets it all wrong. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, oh, I know you're kidding. Anyway, I like inking, but man, if you get a little ink on your finger and you get it spread around on your page, you're sunk.
Yeah, that is one of those things about ink. It's like
it just, if you get on your hands, it just migrates.
Yeah. There are people, I notice this about working at construction. There are people that are as fastidious as some job you would associate with the fastidiousness of, like, I'm trying to think of some job where, meeting and greeting at a museum or something. I mean, they're that way. Only they're working construction, and they just stay absolutely clean because before they pick anything up, they've got their gloves on or whatever they're doing, and they're looking to dodge being nasty and grubby as they work. And I just noticed that, and I thought, wow, what a weird personality. Here I am just diving into it and getting predictably grimy and dirty the longer I work. And then you have these people that are very, like I say, you'd have to call them fastidious about how they work. And I think that's probably more true for guys like that are car culture. You'll find some, you
Yeah.
call them grease monkey, and they'll always have grease under their fingernails, you could say. But there's some of them that no, you can have a white ascot on as you're working. Why not?
It's funny you say that because years ago I had a subscription to Road and Track. I love to read Road and Track, and I and there was a guy named Peter Egan who wrote a column for him every month,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a former mechanic. He had worked for a place that worked on import cars, like I want to say like in the mid or early '60s, and so they worked on a lot of sports cars,
Uh huh.
and he wrote a column about that very thing,
Really?
and it was, yeah, and it was, there were guys that would stay perfectly clean no matter what they were doing, and his conclusion was that, well, or his kind of question point of his column was, are you a better mechanic if you come out clean? you know and he said, if you're, for example, and the example he used was, if you're changing out a transmission and like an MG, I think he used.
Yeah.
He
Well, there's
said,
probably things you can't do, but yeah, go ahead.
well, no, he said, if you're changing out the transmission in MG, are you a better mechanic if you think to drain all the oil out of it before you let it drop on your chest, or if you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
dive in, let it drop on your chest full of oil, And his contention was, maybe the guys who think about it a little bit more,
yeah.
at
No,
least in
no,
that,
no.
are,
I get
are
the
the
impression that if you've ever seen any of those Jay Leno garages, I get a feeling all
oh,
those guys stay probably pretty clean. They've got every tool around there they need, and
oh yeah.
they
Well, I
they
mean, look at a car garage,
what's that?
or any kind of, look at a NASCAR garage or any kind of
Yeah.
racing garage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're they're it's like an operating room.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
all
They.
their tools in the right spot, and I'm my problem is I'm not that organized.
Yeah. That Leno's garage just astounds me to even look at it. And of course, that's apparently just one of many. Apparently, he's got a couple of places that he stores cars at. But the one where he usually brings guests in and they ride around on the city streets for a while and some guest car, uh, it's so nice. And the the tool assemblies that he's got there, it's like they can just build anything they want. They manufacture all the time. They'll have parts that no
Uh,
longer exist, so they get the specs and they just build it. They need to get something that needs to plug into that car, and they're not going to wait
oh
long to find a
well, and it
facsimile.
may,
They're going to build it.
well, in his garage, there may not be a facsimile. I mean,
Yeah,
he's got somebody's got to make it.
yeah,
If
yeah,
he's got
yeah,
to buy a CNC machine to make it, then he's going to do it.
yeah. That's
And
I guess facsimile is
Also,
actually the word I was wanting instead of. They're
yeah,
not going to find it. They're not going to find it in existence, basically, and they have to build the
right.
facsimile. Yeah.
Well, and aren't his cars typically fairly old?
Yeah, typically, but he has favorites from just like when he was a kid. That
Sure.
he'll have '60s cars and stuff like that, and they're just
And some of that stuff
all
he
of
can
them
probably get
beautiful.
parts.
What's that?
So he can probably get those parts. It's the
Yeah,
older stuff and the rare stuff that they're making, which you know it was probably made by hand originally.
right, right.
And depending on the car, you know.
Yeah, I he'll have cars every now and then, and it'll be like he'll get it out on the road, and he'll make the comment saying, "Man, this drives like hell," or whatever. And
Yeah,
it won't be a good car. It'll have interesting lines or whatever. It'll be something that is worthwhile for just its collectability or whatever, but it won't be necessarily a great machine.
but my Michelle's grandfather was a big car guy, and he had a 32 Ford that was like bone stock. I mean, I want to say it had around 50,000 miles on it. And we were out there one time, and he just handed me the keys, and I started it and drove it, and it was like driving a tractor, Ellis. It was
Yeah,
horrible,
yeah. You don't
you know.
realize how much has gone into making that
Oh,
ride comfortable. Yeah.
oh yeah. Well, and the steering. I mean, even like my friend that passed away a few years ago. He had or I guess his wife still has a. I want to say it's a '73 Vet. It was a big block. It was the last year they put a big block in the Vet. And then he also had a Mustang that his dad had bought brand new. It was a '66 Mustang, I believe. And I got to drive both of those cars.
Whew, that'd be nice.
'66 Mustang.
I would love to drive one of those classic Mustangs
Uh,
or the Vets. The Vets, that'd be great.
the
Speaking of
Vet was a lot nicer.
what's that?
The Vet was a lot nicer, but
Yeah.
it drove like a pickup truck. I mean, it was for the time it was like state of the art, but suspensions and steering have come so far. That
Oh yeah.
nowadays, like your average, economy
Yeah.
box car is a better suspension than that Vet probably had.
Yeah.
Now it had a big block, so it was a lot of fun to drive.
Yeah.
You know, it had power to spare, but you know,
Well, that's what's funny. They're putting all this power on something that counts on suspension and such for stability, and yet
yeah,
that suspension is like you say, it feels more like you're on a big sled or something instead of compared to the
no,
way you're
yeah,
used to cars feeling. Uh,
yeah. I At one point I was a big car guy. I thought I wanted an old car, and I just looked at it and was like, man, that stuff ends up owning you.
yeah, my nephew made that mistake thinking he wanted that classic '70s Camaro that
Oh yeah.
is such a classic, but like you say, it just ended up owning him. He had to just you know tap out on that one. You just that's something you sell to these guys that got the money for it.
Well, and like when Michelle's grandfather passed away, um, he I could have got like an old car from his collection. Or actually, they sold a bunch of that stuff before he passed away, and I just didn't want to. I mean, even if you get something that's good, I didn't want to deal with the having to tinker with it all the
No,
time.
no, that you've got to
I,
be
I
that's got to be your main hobby, really, if you're going to do that. I mean, Leno does it because he loves it, and he can hire people that do
oh
a
yeah.
lot of the stuff for him. He's not wrenching anymore. He's just got people hired that
Well,
let
he
him
maybe now.
drive his cars.
Yeah, he may be now, but yeah, you when he was on the ascent of his career, he probably wasn't wrenching on cars.
Yeah, yeah.
Not like you know, um, I mean, there's
you'd
only
get cars
so
that
much
would
time.
run and cars you could turn over for service and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Now I can buy a car that's been sitting out in the shed for a while and bring it back.
yeah, I don't, yeah. But I mean, even then, even if I had the time and the money, I don't think I'm that interested
No,
anymore.
I'm not either. No, I'm playing like I'm a car culture guy, but I'm not. It's always been a very much a contact high kind of thing for me. I've never gotten into knowing the the basics about how what makes a good old car, and I'm not so well acquainted with stuff. Hey, Merry Christmas to Doug. Doug checked in long enough to say Merry Christmas to us. Hey, Doug. Congratulations, Doug, for all that you've done just lately. I got my big earthworm gem. So let's see here. What was I saying? um, oh, about cars. Yeah, yeah. About being kind of a phony as far as being a car culture guy. Not actually so much. But I want to say something else about cars. Oh yeah. Have you seen this movie, Bumblebee? Or oh, well, Scott has tapped out. I used the word earlier. I think I'll tap out too. Wait a second. Here he comes. Do I have to add him to the show again? Let me look. Add to stream. Here we go. I've added you, Scott.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, but you've got a black
Yeah, I don't know what's going.
void.
Well, my phone is getting ready to die, and my battery backup apparently is dead, which is why it's not charging it.
Oh, okay. Hey, yeah,
Yeah, I've
Doug
been.
got the book and happy. He's happy. I'm proud of the work. I am proud of the work. It looks fantastic. I can't lie to you and tell you I've read it yet, but there's something about something when it arrives and you know you can get to it anytime that sometimes delays the gratification. Now, if I'd got it out of the library, of course, I'd have it read by now. But no, it's sitting in that beautiful box waiting for me to read. But I went through I looked at every page. It's a beautiful.
Hang on, I got it. You can hear me, Ellis, right?
I can hear you.
I've got to interrupt. I can't believe Doug Apple's on our stream. I'm a huge Doug fan.
Doug is the man.
Oh my God.
Edwin Boyette did some sort of stat where he published what part of the Indiegogo market Doug represented as far as funded
Yeah.
comics like that, independently funded comics, and he was a major percent. I think he was up there like 6 or 7% of all comics with his share of the market.
Well, he's definitely a guy that can get stuff done. You know.
And yeah, if you wanted a life lesson from anybody, watch Doug do that stuff. He's not getting everything done in one night. He's getting a piece of it done in one night, but he comes back every night,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
just
Well.
continues to work on it.
Yeah. I have a lot of admiration for him for sure.
You're a big fan. If we're ever at a Comic Con together, we'll just walk over and say hi to Doug.
Oh, no doubt, man. I'll do it without you if I have
Yeah,
to.
I know you'll do it without me. Yeah, that's. I know you will.
Well, you know.
I'm introducing you now. Hey, Doug, this is Scott. He knows you already though, because he'll come on and make a quick little comment in our feeds.
Oh,
Sometimes.
really? I've never
Yeah.
noticed it. I just when my phone died or it didn't die, my phone is at 1%, and so I grabbed my iPad to see what was going on, and I happened to see Doug's name on the chat, and I mean, I've been a fan of his. I mean, I played Earthworm Jim back in the day, and when Creature Tech came out, it was like, holy cow. So
Yeah, I got to watch Creature Tech being done while he was dabbling at it while it's good to see all the lessons I could have been learning at the time. No, he had a couple style experiments he did before he got into it in a big way, and you know
uh,
something you could say was a little more Calvin Hobbesy, and something that was a little more Bernard Harriman, not Bernard Harriman, the guy that
that's
did Crazy
the
Cat,
composer.
Herman or
Oh,
whatever.
what Harryman? I don't know his first name. George
Yeah,
Harriman.
Harriman, which of course is a big influence on Doug for the uh, the look of Earthworm Jim in general.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
Well,
you experiment with your style a little bit and give yourself a little Bible of how you do things. Stick
yeah.
to it.
A long time ago, you shared that page with me.
Yeah, that's the page I'm talking about. Yeah.
Is it 4 panels or 6 panels?
Yeah,
And it
it's
was
about
got
6 panels. I may be able to go in real quick on my bulletin board and see if it's there. Let me go look real quick. I'll be right back. Oh, yeah. That didn't take me too long. Are you still there? Oh, flaked out again. Well, anyway, this is what Scott and I are talking about. This is something Doug did before he started in, and you can see he's made a pass at saying, "What if I go to like really really rendery and do a lot of basically hatching, which would be it's something obviously he can do, and he might experiment with it someday, but it's not really natural to him. This is kind of like a more of a hatch style combined with the starkness, and those silhouettes back there. That's kind of would have its own like style rules. This one here is almost like total lost lines. This probably was pretty much influenced by Frank Miller being out there, which is really cool. Like having just your shadow groups. If it's not, it's either in shadow or it's not in shadow, and nothing catches a line, which is that's a hard rule to go by, but I think the mind really likes this look. I mean, it liked that look when Frank Miller did it, didn't it? So let's see, what one most looks like what he's decided to look like. I don't know. It's hard to say. Probably this one. I don't know. Yeah, it's got it's very full of brushwork. So anyway, that's what we're talking about. Hey, Scott has crapped out again. I am going to call it quits and tell everybody not now. Boy, I tell you what, this OS, when it downloaded itself and it was forcing me to do things I didn't want to do, I just started over and then told it, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. So, Scott, I will contact Scott via email and say, thanks for being on. And thanks to everybody that came by in broadcast.